Welcome everybody to another journey around the sun. This is the year 2022 and I decided to show you a bit of the astrology. For those who don't really understand what the planets do, they don't compel in any way, they're actually impelling. They're impulses for us to be at our highest potential. So what's happening on the 5th of January 2022 is a stellium. Stellium is Latin for star. So we're going to have a star. We're going to have a cluster of 6 planets, the Sun, Venus, Pluto, Mercury, Saturn and the Moon. Those 6 planets are all within what they call a 30-degree orb. Because when we divide the circle of 360, the zodiac, into 12 signs, 12 into 30, 12 into 360 is 30. So this is a rare astrological lineup. Last time it happened was on the 5th of February 1962 when 7 planets lined up in Aquarius. When 7 planets line up, that's when Jesus was born 2,000 years ago. 7 planets lined up in Pisces, which is the fishes. And 2,000 years before that we had Moses being born, and 2,000 before that we had pyramids being built. So these are all markers, but there's marking points for the big cycles, because our solar system also goes around another sun in the Pleiades called Alcyone. So there's big cycles, but we're going to look at the small cycles within. So we start at this point here, which is called the ecliptic. This is Aries. Aries is the brow here. So the symbol for Aries is these 2 curves coming down the nose. So the symbol for Aries looks like our brow and eyebrows. So that rules the head, and then Taurus is the throat, Gemini is the arms, Cancer is the breast, Leo is the heart. So this is a map of the body. So what we've noticed for this year coming is that this stellium is in the position of Capricorn, Aquarius. Now Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Now what does Saturn do? Saturn builds walls, its authority, its structure, its foundations. Now the ruler for Capricorn is called Uranus. Now where's Uranus on the chart? So we notice that Uranus is here in the sign of in the house of Taurus. So Uranus in Taurus is all about money and security. So what Uranus does is Uranus is sudden events. Uranus is the space age. So what's happening is that sudden events are going to happen that question all our security and how we feel secure with money in society. So Saturn right now is actually in a 90-degree relationship. If we go 1 sign, 2 sign, 3, Saturn is 90 degrees. It's called square in Saturn. Now the problem with that is that Saturn square in Uranus happened last year when I was doing the last astrology chart. So Saturn builds the walls because it's a ruler of Capricorn. And then Uranus comes along, which is the ruler of Aquarius. Uranus comes along and destroys, smashes all the constructs. So there's a dynamic going on. There's also another square that's going on, is that this north node and south node are, these represent an 18-year cycle. So I'll just show you what that means. So when you were born, there's a certain planet on this. This is the Earth, and there's your sunrise point. So as the sun and moon rise, all the planets go around an imaginary line in the sky. It's called the ecliptic. So we look at these 12 signs of the zodiac because they're all here on this ecliptic, but we don't often talk about all the other constellations and planets. If you saw a bright light over here, it can't be a planet, because when we look at the stars twinkle in the night sky. But if you see something that's shining bright, we know it's a planet. But the planet can't be here or there. It has to be on this ecliptic, like the equator around the solar system. So I know that as the sun and moon sets, we can only observe planets on this ecliptic. So in your lifetime, there's an 18-year cycle that goes from the north node to the south node. The north node is where you're going, and the south node is your past. And we have Jupiter here squaring both the north node and the south node. So when we see a square, that 90-degree energy is kind of difficult or challenging. But if we see a 60-degree relationship, they're more water crystallizes at 60-degree angles. So this is like water. These are all 60-degree angles. So when two planets are 60 degrees apart, they're in a harmony. So I'll show you a relationship would be Venus is sextile or 60 degrees from Neptune. So here's Neptune and there's Venus. So that distance from here to there is 60 degrees. So that's very much into expressing our artistic nature. So while all these challenges are going on during this COVID and the pandemic time, everyone's at home, which is the Taurus energy we're talking about. Everyone's at home and they're doing things, they're playing with their kids and they're pulling out all their paints and artwork and doing all the stuff that they express in their artisticness. So that's the good relationship between Venus and Neptune. We also had what's called an ingress. An ingress is when, say, Jupiter here, Jupiter is just entering this sign of Pisces. So Pisces is like the world, because Aries is the self, Taurus, we get to relationships, which is the opposite of Aries is say Libra, which is how you relate to other people. So it goes the journey from the self to others, and then we've got Scorpio, which is society. Sagittarius is travel, studying in universities. Capricorn is ruling governments. Aquarius is putting all the nations together. But when we have something entering Pisces, Pisces is the universal world. It's the completion, because after Pisces is Aries. We go back to the inner self. So Pisces here, which is ruled by Neptune, we have Jupiter coming in. Now Jupiter is all about expansion. So this is one of those curious things, like people say, well, how do these planets like Jupiter, why does it mean expansion or wealth? Because what they've done, we've studied famous people. So when we study like all the millionaires in the world, for 1,000 millionaires, we look at all their charts and we observe a pattern that when they were born, they all had the Sun conjunct Jupiter. So Jupiter is always about wealth. Or say we study, say Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix had a difficult relationship with Uranus. So Jimi Hendrix had a complex relationship with Uranus. So Uranus rules the space age and innovation. So he took the electric guitar and brought new music to the world. It was wild and innovative. So that's Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius. And sometimes we study things, well, let's look at a natural event like, let's say Hiroshima. When Hiroshima was bombed on the 6th of August in 1945, we observed some very interesting planets happened. So Hiroshima was when Mars was conjunct Uranus. So here's Uranus. So in 1945, when the bomb was dropped and 120,000 people were instantly killed, we had Uranus, which rules sudden events and cataclysms and nuclear energy, and it was conjunct Mars. This symbol for Mars, which is Mars is over here. Mars was conjunct Uranus, and together Mars and Uranus are deadly. They're not a good combination. So when we study natural events like Fukushima, when Fukushima happened, we had another Uranian misalignment. It wasn't good energy. That there can be good placements when, say, Venus or Jupiter, but when you've got Mars with Uranus, that's like sudden accidents, catastrophes. So what I'm trying to say is that we don't have that in this year's coming. This square with Uranus that we're in now, this challenge, is going to be shifting. And so what I believe this is all about is that this is all about what we call a spiritual awakening. These challenges happen in our personal life and in the world to start to make us ask the questions like, what's really important here in my life? When everything is taken away, when this pandemic is challenging us, do we come back to family? Do we come back to what's essential and real? So that's what the planets are doing. So ultimately the main conjunction here is we've got Jupiter square in our north node and the south node here. We've got Uranus square Saturn, so it's all Uranian difficulties. But Uranus is also the space age. It's the ruler of Aquarius, because we have a stellium here in Aquarius. But having Uranus square in all this means that we have to be very careful where we make our choices. Like, so Uranus would say, no, we don't want coal, we want solar power, because Saturn, the square with Saturn and Uranus, Saturn says we want to keep using coal and pollute the world, but Aquarius says no, we're going to convert to solar eventually and protect the barrier reef. So that's what this dynamic's all about. But in our personal life, we have to really be careful with our choices now. This, when you see all the planets on one side of the zodiac like this, it's like a bowl. So this is actually called a bowl chart. So what we need to do is that if this was a parabola, like a parabola in the light, there would be a handle to the bowl. So the opposite point over here, this point over here is the handle to this bowl chart. And it's not actually a planet, it's actually called a fixed star. So when I was learning astrology 40 years ago, I was doing casting the natal charts by hand. It would take me all day just to draw your natal chart and look at the transits, these are the transits where the planets are moving. But we didn't look at fixed stars. Some people look at Sirius, the brightest star in the universe is Sirius, and that could, if that was conjoining or conjunct one of your natal planets, it would have significance. But for January 2022, we have a fixed star called Regulus. Now Regulus is called the Cor Leonis. Cor Leonis. Leonis is the lion, because 2,160 years ago, right, going back to the time of Jesus, we had the Regulus was actually over here. But every 2,500 years, like clockwork, every 72 years, like little hairs over here, every 72 years, we move. Every 1 degree, we're going backwards. We're moving 72 years. So the time to go back to the time of Jesus was that Regulus was over here, but today Regulus is just ingressed or moved into the sign of Virgo. So we've got the sign of Virgo over here. So what's Regulus all about? Regulus was known as the fixed cross. So, you know, when you look at a traditional astrology map, you see a cross, you see the fixed signs, you see Leo is fixed fire. Then opposite that one we would have, the opposite of Leo is Aquarius, which is fixed air. Then we would have Taurus and Scorpio. They're water and earth. Now, so these 4 bright stars, remember they're called the royal stars. Remember I was talking about the ecliptic. So when the sun rises, it rises here and sets there. When we see the moon, it rises and sets. So we know that all the planets rise and set. So because we only see this ecliptic, this imaginary line, the ancient people from Sumeria, which is Iran, or Persia, Iran, about 3,000 years ago, they noticed that there were 4 distinct stars that were always on this ecliptic. They're called the 4 royal stars, and they made like this fixed cross. And that's how they navigated. They were able to travel through the oceans and travel because of this fixed star. So I just wanted to let you know that there's so much depth in astrology, which is that's a map of the cosmos, of our journey as we travel in our life. And there are cycles that repeat, like the 18-year cycle, north-south node, and half of the 18-year cycle is 9 years. So the Pythagoreans talked a lot about 9-year cycles. And these big cycles here, as we go through small cycles, there's bigger wheels where we're traveling 2,160 years through every single sign. So for us, for our whole solar system to go around another solar system called Alcyone in the Pleiades, which is called the glitter box in the night sky, it takes 25,920 years. So astrology is looking at the big cycles and our own personal cycle within those bigger cycles. So this is all about as above, so below, and we recognize by studying these small wheels within the bigger wheels that we are part of a huge matrix. Matrix means the womb where we are birthed from our source. So that's our story for Christmas and New Year, and I hope you enjoyed the direction where 5th of January 2022 is taking us, because what's emerging from that is on the 2nd of the 2nd 2022 is when all the twos appear. And we also have the 22nd of February. So there's a lot of amazing numerology and star patterns arising. So take it easy and enjoy your time with your friends and your family.